this video, I'm going to share with you 5 mindset principles that I've used over the course of my business career to generate multiple 7-figure years. I believe these principles will make it much easier to build the business you actually want. A lot of times it's our minds and our perspective that is limiting our growth. And when bad things happen, a clinician leaves, or we just stop marketing or stop checking our finances, that's when everything falls apart. So today I'm going to show you how to get your mind right, how to get through the tough times, but also how to know what you need to do to grow. All right, so this is your 7-figure mindset. Again, these are principles that I felt were the most helpful for me generating 7 figures per year. It's also what I talk about with my clients so often, and it's what I see that differentiates the people that are doing multiple 6 figures a year versus those that actually reach 7 figures. The first principle, and this is going to be really important if you've never made 7 figures in a year before, is knowing your numbers. The reason I say this is whenever we talk about $1 million, that feels like a ton of money to most people, right? Most people do not really have an ability to conceptualize what that actually means. And so it becomes this ethereal thing that is always out in the distance. As soon as you can ground this number in the numbers it takes to get there, it becomes something that you can create a pathway towards. And this is the same thing if you want to make 6 figures in a year versus 7 figures in a year versus 8 figures in a year. You can define out what the numbers are, and that allows you to actually get there. So the tangible shift somewhere along the way in growing your business is becoming somebody who is more numbers oriented or learns how to look at the right numbers. In your group practice, $83,000 a month, $83,333 per month is going to be $1 million per year run rate. And $83,000 might look like 8 therapists times $10,000 per month. And really quickly, when we start to do this, is we break down and say, well, if I have 4 therapists right now, I need 4 more therapists, and I need them all to be full, generating at least $10,000 per month. If you've done what it takes to get new clients in the door, to hire people, to manage them, right? To make sure that all the billing goes through effectively, that you're able to operate the business, it's just doubling what you already have, and now you're $1 million earner. So let's think about it. What would it take to fill up 8 therapists and then sustain them? I'll tell you, the next batch of numbers that's important to know are your marketing and sales metrics. What I see most often for my clinicians that get to $1 million per year or beyond is they're able to generate somewhere between 15 to 30 new clients per month. It's possible to get to $1 million per year with less clinicians, less new clients per month if you're a really premium rate and your clinicians retain for a really long time. But for the most part, you're going to need something like 15 to 30 new clients per month, maybe even more depending on how well your clinicians retain. So think about what you do now to get however many new clients you get per month now. If it's, for example, 5 new clients per month and it's all from building relationships, a simple way for you to get to 7 figures is to think, what would it take for me to 6x my output of activity in building relationships? Same thing goes for Google, SEO, or ads. Your marketing and sales is always just going to break down to how can I do more of what I'm currently doing, or how can I add on one new marketing channel in order to get to 7 figures? And again, this can be hard for a lot of therapists to get, but when you can become more numbers oriented, you can start understanding the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Better than it's not going how I want it, or I don't like how things are, is to say, this is where things are, and this is what the gap is, and here's my plan to fill in that gap. All right, I'm going to highlight this, and let's move on to the second principle. The next principle is going to be systems, or a systems orientation. Think about what it would take to hire maybe 12 therapists so that 8 are going to stay full time. Maybe you have to hire more of them. What it would take to get 30 new clients every single month, month after month, for a year straight. The only thing you can really rely on is going to be systems to fill your practice. The biggest group practices that I've ever worked with all have amazing systems on Google. They have SEO, they have ads. A lot of times they have both. And that alone delivers them 30, 50, 80 new clients every single month. Another amazing marketing strategy is building relationships. One other big $5 million a year group practice I worked with recently hired someone whose full-time job was just to go to doctors' offices and build relationships. The way you need to think to get to 7 figures, different from 6 figures, is that hard work does not equal outcomes. You need to learn to detach your hard work from the results of the business a little bit, because there comes a point pretty early on when you're getting to 7 figures where you literally cannot work more hours in a day. You can't work more than 24 hours in a day, and you probably have to sleep. You probably have family responsibilities. You probably have to do something so you don't go crazy, especially if you're doing a bunch of clinical sessions yourself. And so you really need to learn, what are the few systems that are going to get me to where I want to be? It's a weird switch, but at a certain point, you're going to feel like you're working less hours to get higher outcomes. Okay, you're going to feel like growth looks like doing a lot less of the work that you're used to doing. Now, what are the sort of systems that we're going to look at? We'll talk about people, we'll talk about marketing systems, hiring, and running the business operations. And that's going to bring us to our third principle. I wanted to give it its own section, and that is people. So the reality, I walked this through with our clinicians in our community last week, is when we do the math, it is significantly harder to do $1 million per year with 24 part-time therapists. If you can think about the amount of management, even if people are part-time, of 24 people versus 8 therapists or 6 therapists that are doing $12,000, $15,000 a month. I would always prefer to do it with less people. And when we look at this, this means people that are full-time. This means people that are generating a lot of revenue. They're making a lot of money themselves. So what this really looks like, and the language I've used with a lot of my clients, is to find your superstars. It doesn't take a lot of people, but it does take several really good people in order to hit $1 million per year. Now, you can learn a ton of these skills yourself. You can up-level your own marketing, hiring, how much revenue you produce as a clinician yourself, but ultimately you're going to have to fill in the rest of the gaps with great people. So that can mean up-leveling people into supervisors into your practice, finding the clinicians that want to see 25, 30 sessions a week, make a ton of money, and produce a bunch of revenue for the practice. It might mean hiring marketing agencies, vendors, up-leveling the admins on your team to do more work, take on more responsibility. There is ultimately so much work that needs to be done that you have to be able to trust other people to do it and do it successfully. And so that's what I want to say on the hiring side. The other piece of this that's really important is colleagues. I'll say I've been around a lot of therapists. Many of them don't have a strong money mindset. Many of them don't feel like they should earn really well, but some of them do. And some of them are doing incredibly well. I've heard the saying, I'm sure you're the average of the 5 people that you've been around the most. You want to try to surround yourself with really, really great people, great business owners, right? People that are successful, people that are striving for more, that are pushing to continue to improve, because it's going to expand your own horizons. And I say this very passionately because at every inflection point in my business career, every moment where we've had big growth has been on the other side of joining a new community of other people that I think are similar to me, that are maybe doing slightly better. And this is because I really believe that your identity, what you see for yourself, what you think is possible in terms of your income, needs to be the thing that shifts first in order to see that result in your business. And I know that one of the best places to find it is going to be with colleagues. So if you're following along so far, the big mindset shift is going from I'm going to do a lot of the hard work myself to I'm going to build systems that run while I sleep, and I'm going to surround myself with incredible, talented people. If they're in my business, I'm going to pay them well. If they're colleagues, I'm going to give to them and see what I get back, right? In a very real way, I do think you get back what you put out into other people. Okay, next principle, and this is going to be scary for a lot of you, and it's risk. The reality of entrepreneurship, and even entrepreneurship when you're building a group practice, which has been done tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of times before, is that you do not know what your outcomes are going to be until you get there. And in order to get there, you have to take risk. You have to take bets that may or may not pay off. You might put a bunch of money, time into something that doesn't end up working out. Every single entrepreneur has to take some amount of risk in order to build a business, in order to maintain their business. And so growing to the next level of your business is going to take some appetite for risk. Most therapists I talk to are not incredible risk takers. You do not have to be to get to 7 figures, but you need to be able to take some sort of risk. Basic example is spending money on advertising. When we spend money on Google ads, if we do it on Facebook ads, we have to spend the money first before we ever get new clients who are going to pay us money. That means there is a guarantee that we're going to lose money on day 1, maybe day 2, maybe day 7, maybe day 14. But in that time frame, we can improve our system and hopefully we can bring some people in that are going to create a return on investment. There is a risk financially that you have to take on. There might be a risk on people where you just cannot know the future until it comes. And so you have to be okay with saying, I think this is my best bet. I'm going to do this the best that I possibly can. And I also know it might not work out. The truth is, if a clinician comes in and they do bad things in your practice and they leave, you can still recover from it. Same thing with spending money on advertising, sometimes signing a lease that's not amazing. Most decisions on the path to 7 figures are reversible. They are things that you can recover from if they don't go well. On the other hand, if they do go well, they can be the very things that allow you to reach the new heights in your business. I remember moments early on in my first business where I ran a new advertising campaign. It didn't work and I only had $1,000 left. And I built a new advertising campaign, spent more money. And on the other side of that was my best month ever in business. And I can look back now and say, if I hadn't done it then, I don't know if the future that I have now would be the same. So the same thing goes for you. If your business has been stagnant for a long while, if you're somebody who's really scared to take risk, you have to tiptoe out a little farther into risky territory, because on the other end of that is the new possibilities for yourself, for your business, for your revenue, for your income. Okay, the last principle, one of the favorite ones for so many of the different therapists that I work with, is going to be emotions. The reality is you're going to feel a ton of emotions on the journey to 7 figures. If you can do $83,000 in a month, 1 month, that doesn't mean that you make 7 figures in a year. You have to do it every single month for 12 months, or you have to average 83,000. So some months might be 100,000, some might be 70,000. Through that time frame, I can guarantee you that some things are not going to go well. That is the nature of business. I talk about clinicians quitting. It doesn't happen a ton of time for the people that I work with, but it does happen. And invariably, there is churn and people that are generating a lot of revenue for your business. You might have a client do a terrible thing to a clinician, or something really bad happen to your files. There is infinite bad things that can happen in your business. And it's not about reducing those to zero, but it's about being able to maintain yourself and get through them. So the big thing I say, and moving from 6 figures to 7 figures, is that earlier on in business, you're going to have a lot more of a roller coaster like this. Bigger highs, lower lows, right? And you're going to really feel how things go up and how things go down. And this will never stop, but especially when you're in uncharted territory or you're on that path to growth, it's going to feel like new and scary and exciting, and then horrible and like the end of the road at many times in your business career. But I think to grow, you have to learn how to have a little bit more equanimity. And what that is it's a little bit lower highs and a little bit higher lows, and we're just closer to baseline at each time. We understand, we recognize that the worst things are not going to kill us, and the best things won't necessarily be guaranteed tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, 7 figures is just about taking the actions necessary to hit 7 figures. And it's about the habits, the identity, the consistency to do that day after day after day. So you simply need the ability to maintain through difficult circumstances, and to keep taking the actions necessary to grow the business. When things go wrong, you can't stop marketing the business, right? Even if you feel like one of your clinicians is not great or something bad happened with the client, it doesn't mean that the business is bad and that you shouldn't keep telling the world that they should come to work with the clinicians in your practice if something's going on for them. And in order to keep doing that, you just need to learn to divorce your emotions with the activity that you do in your business a little bit. Now, I had a conversation yesterday with one of my clients, and she said, I just have to learn to not have emotions in business, just to make the right decisions. And I said, you're never not going to be emotional with this. This is your income. This is something that's taking so much of your time that's incredibly important to you. But what you can learn to do is maintain the proper perspective despite what happens. You can learn to keep moving forward even when things aren't going exactly how you want day by day. Because when you zoom out over time, a lot of these mountains and valleys just get smoothed into a big line of growth. So those are my 5 mindset principles to $1 million a year or more. Let me know what you think. And if you like this, I put together a full 7-figure plan for what we do to help clinicians scale to 7 figures in their group practice. You can check that out in the link below.